Hi everyone, welcome back to Zealous English. I'm Julia Lippold and welcome to Term 2. Today we're going to be talking about reading and the importance of doing our due diligence and making sure that we know what we're reading about before we read it, which might sound a little bit strange, but I'll explain why that's really important soon, and that we are actively doing something while we are reading. Reading tends to be something that we have to do a lot of in English and in EAL. It tends to form around 60% of our core curriculum that we study in English or EAL, and you may find yourself reading 3 or 4 novels over the course of the year for your English classes. Of course, you should be reading many more books than that, and on my resources tab of my blog you will find some suggestions of classics that you should be reading to complement your studies of literature. But in particular, you will study around 3 to 4 texts in depth as a specific literary study throughout the year. These may range from short stories to graphic novels to plays such as Shakespeare or novels. And today we're going to be talking about what we should be doing before we do a literary course, what we should do while we are reading, and what we should do after we have read the novel or the play or the short story that we've been asked to read for school. So what should we do in the before reading stage? Well, it's really important that you actually know a little bit about what you are going to read before you read it. And this is because there shouldn't be too many surprises in terms of the plot structure and the characters that you're going to come across in these short stories or plays or novels, so that you have an awareness of what you need to be looking for during reading stage. So that means that you know the setting, that you know when this novel was written, that you've done your research, and you can do a simple Google search and read a summary of this story. You can also engage in literary critiques of this particular story or play or novel. So that means you're reading what other people think about this play, particularly if you're reading something that has been written a long time ago or that we've been reading for many, many years now, even centuries. So why is this novel or this play or this short story put up here as being something that is, a great example of literary prowess? Why do we keep reading this? Why do critics keep coming back to this novel or this play and putting it up here and saying, this is a great piece of writing, this is a great piece of literary art, craft? So I want you to engage in this process by reading about what you are supposed to read before you actually read it. You might want to read some schmoop. You might want to go and download a lit chart. These are great, and they are great as a resource to read about what you are reading, but shouldn't be used in preparation for your assessment, as in memorizing what other people have written about this novel. So please do engage in that, and I've got some suggestions and some links on a document that's called Annotation and Pre-Reading Checklist in Preparation for Literary Studies, which will be on the resources tab of my website. Then we move into stage 2, which is the biggest stage or the biggest phase of our literary study, which is the during reading phase. So you already know a little bit about this book. You might know when it was written, you might know who the characters are, you might know what some of the themes are, you might have read some critiques of this novel, so you have an idea of what you're reading. Even if you know the ending, that's okay. There are no surprises, no spoiler alerts when you're doing an in-depth study of a novel, because you have to have those critical glasses on, those critical eyes on the text the whole time so that you know exactly what you are looking for. So while you are reading, in the front of your novel, you should have a list of the characters that appear in the novel, and you keep adding to that list as it goes through. So here's a copy of my To Kill a Mockingbird, and here are all the characters listed in the front of the novel. As a character appears, you add that character to the list. You should also add the themes to the front of your novel as well. So here we go, on the very front page of my novel, I've got the themes, and I might add to these themes as they go through. I might even think of my own themes that I think that this novel is about, or for example, in Dark Roots, which is a Year 11 text, we look at, what does each chapter, what's a theme that I would ascribe to each of these chapters. Here's my copy of Persepolis. Okay, I've got, a strong understanding of what my characters and my themes are before I've engaged in the reading process. When I'm reading, I get really close in and I look very carefully for literary devices. I'm looking for things like metaphors, similes, personification, use of imagery, motifs, point of view. Does it shift from first person to third person? And then I think about what's the effect of that and why did the reader choose to write from that perspective? Any foreshadowing? And I get really good at highlighting and annotating these things in my text. So you'll see, if I was to flick through some of these novels, you'll see lots of highlighting and notes. Okay, I don't just highlight, I actually annotate and I write why I've highlighted that and what it might actually mean. So it's really important to make notes while you are reading. If you just highlight, you will forget why you highlighted that and what the actual device was or what it actually meant. So, for example, in the Dark Roots chapter of Kate Kennedy's Dark Roots, I'm looking for the use of the second person here. I'm asking myself, why does she use this metaphor here and what does it mean? I've highlighted key language and key quotes. With quotes, it's really important to highlight quotes as they appear in the text of what you think is a good quote and why that connects to that particular character or that theme. And then add those to a list or a table as you are reading. So you're doing your preparation for your assessment while you are actually reading. You build up that quote bank while you are actually engaged in the reading process. Don't leave it till later, till after you finish the book, because you might have forgotten some. You'll pick up on the really good quotes while you are actually reading as well. The other thing that's really important to do is get some of these great little sticky labels. The plastic ones, not the paper ones, because the paper ones bend. You want the plastic ones because they're tough. And you want to try and get a packet of different coloured ones as well. And you can use those different colours for different characters or different themes. That's up to you. But you should be labelling key chapters and key scenes as they appear in your novel. So that was my little sticky label there for the Dark Roots chapter of the Dark Roots short stories by Kate Kennedy. Here's my copy of Grenville's The Lieutenant. And you can see my purple tabs at the top up here. These ones are paper and you can see they didn't last as well as the plastic ones did. They're the chapters, but down the side here, my yellow tabs, these are my tabs for key chapters and key events, and I will label those key events. I will say this happened, what happened here, and I will come back to that exact chapter or that exact key scene, that key event, as I'm preparing for my assessment. So I'm preparing those examples while I'm reading as well. It's a very important part of the process to engage in this while you are actually reading. Have your pens and your highlighters ready to go. Use multicolored pens, multicolored highlighters. Get creative. You will have your own method, but these are tried and tested and they work. So what do you do after you've finished your first reading of the novel and you've done your highlighting, you've started, adding to that quote bank? Well, what you should actually be doing at the end of each chapter is that you should actually write a little bit about what you have read. So you ask yourself some critical questions like, what did this chapter teach me about this particular character? Or what did I learn about the narrative structure? Or what did this particular chapter have to do with the bigger overarching themes of the text? And you write a little paragraph about it. And I have an example of a paragraph, a little reflective paragraph that I've written about one of Shakespeare's plays called Measure for Measure on the handout that will be on the resources tab of this website. If you engage in this reflective process, chapter by chapter, or if you're reading a play, act by act, dividing up the play into sections, okay, and then writing a little reflection at the end of each act or at the end of each chapter if you're reading a novel, it really helps you think about the bigger meanings of the text and what's actually happening in the text as a whole. because you coming to that individual concept or that individual understanding and that personal connection with the text is what the assessors are essentially looking for. That you have gone out there, you have thought about how you have connected with this text, what it's taught you, you've gotten into the mind of the author and you've thought about what the author's message is and you've written about it. So you're actually engaging in your assessment preparation while you are reading the text. So get a little book, okay, a little journal type book, and start writing about what you're actually reading. And the earlier you can do this from year 7, if you can do this all the way through the middle years, it will make a big difference by the time you get into year 11 and 12. So let's recap. There are 3 stages in preparing for a literature or literary study. There is the before reading stage, the during reading stage, and the after reading stage. And it's important that you engage in each of these processes so that you are really getting an in-depth understanding of the text that you are reading, that you will ultimately, very likely, write an essay on for your assessment, and that you know as much as you can. You know everything about the world of the text, so that when you go into that assessment, whether it's open book or not, that you can confidently say, I know everything about this text and I'm well prepared for this assessment because I followed Miss Lippold's advice and I know how to prepare for a text response essay assessment task. So, good luck. Make sure you get some of these little sticky tabs. They will be your best friend forever when it comes to literature studies. And please, if you have any questions, put them in the comment section underneath this video below. I'd love to hear of any suggestions as well for videos for this term of things that you would like me to cover. And I look forward to continuing this journey with you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.